If you're a part-time woodworker or active DIYer like me, chances are you probably have a lot of these types of measuring tools laying around your house. But what I've found is that these items are not created equal. And I'm not talking about the color or the size. I'm referring to how these items compare to one another in their ability for accurate measurement. So in this video, I'm going to compare all the measuring devices I have, and I'm going to determine how I can calibrate them so that they can be as precise as possible. Okay, so I'm going to use this ruler as my control, and I'm just going to use this piece of scrap wood here. I'm going to lay the ruler down on top of it, and with one of my squares, I'm going to make sure that my ruler and my piece of scrap wood are nice and square to one another on the end here. And then I'm going to clamp the ruler down to the piece of scrap wood so that it doesn't go anywhere. And now I'm going to make sure that I get a really good reading on each of these tape measures by hooking the tape around this piece of scrap wood and comparing it to the ruler. So as I pick up the first one here and I make my way down, I can kind of look at the different inch measurements and just make sure that those lines intersect with each other. And this one actually looks like it's off by just a little bit. It's almost in alignment. It's less than a 32nd of an inch off, but it is very close. The next one, and this one looks very consistent as well. It looks like it is pretty much touching at those inch marks. They all line up. So I should be able to achieve consistent cuts taking the measurement of this tape measure compared to the ruler. Now this third one here is one that I already know is giving me a little bit of trouble. When I compare it to some of the other tape measures, it's not lining up. So whenever I compare it to our control here, I can see that I'm off by about a 1/16 of an inch whenever I make my way down the tape measure comparing it to the ruler. If I'm in a situation where I'm using multiple tape measures and trying to come up with the most precise cut, that's an area that can get me into trouble. It's probably not going to be a problem if I'm just using this tape measure to measure where I'm going to drill a hole to hang a curtain or something basic around the house, but whenever you're trying to get repeatable cuts in woodworking and you might be grabbing one tape measure for use in one area and then you grab another tape measure for making a mark or cutting in a different area of the shop, you could be off by that 1/16 of an inch, which could give you an issue whenever it comes to squaring up your work. So when I took a look at this tape measure, there was a couple of things that I noticed right off the bat. This hook here doesn't seem to be moving very well. So the hook is in place so that it does move back and forth, and it gives you that difference whenever you're either hooking on something or pushing up against something, and it's taken into account the width of the hook. On my tape measure here, it's barely moving at all. So there's something preventing it from moving back and forth freely. You look at another one of these tape measures and that hook is moving back and forth very freely. So either there's something that's gumming up the pins there inside the hook, or it's bent. And if I take a close look at it, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it looks like it's bent a little bit. And also there's some crud on the back side here. So I'm gonna make sure that that is lined up properly and just clean it a little bit with some WD-40 and see if that frees things up a little bit. So I'm going to start with a pair of pliers, and I'm just going to kind of maneuver that a little bit. Looks like it's bent, and these things take a lot of abuse. I mean, we're constantly dropping our tape measures. These here are, I mean, they've been through a lot. I'm missing, you know, I got pieces, well, that's what I'm talking about there. This one's been around for a very long time. I've dropped it several times. This one as well, I've dropped it, it's fallen, it's, you know, it takes some abuse. So if something falls, if one of these falls directly onto its hook like that, I mean, there's a possibility that it could bend. So I just straightened that out a little bit, and already it seems to be working more freely. The other thing I'm going to do is just take a knife and try to scrape off that crud that's on there. I'm not sure if that's glue or caulk or what that is. So we've made a couple of adjustments to it. Let's see how it compares. That is looking a whole lot better. I mean, we are lined up pretty consistently all the way down here. Last thing I'm going to do, just to make sure that that part keeps moving back and forth freely, is I'm just going to squirt a little bit of WD-40 in there. Dry that off. That's a lot better. All right. Okay. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take these squares while I'm here, while I have this control. So as I'm going around my shop, I'm gonna know that if I pick up any one of these tape measures, any one of these rules, I wanna understand how close are they in accuracy to one another. And if I'm, again, using this ruler here as my control, I'm gonna pick up another one of these squares. So this is a 1 foot square. This is an old one. It's been around for a long time. It's probably been banged up and dropped several times, but we're gonna use the square itself as our stop here and line these two up to one another and see just how close they are. Now these, I mean, they line up perfectly. These marks are not off at all. They intersect each other at each inch mark, so I know that this ruler is consistent with this ruler. And then I'm going to look at my other one here. This is a 6-inch. Use that same square there for my back. I'm going to line those up. And again, everything looks really good, and I expect that. I mean, these brands are the same. These are all made by the same manufacturer, so they should have the same accuracy and repeatability. This is just something that I like to do on like an annual basis. Just make sure that my tape measures are all reading accurately, that they are consistent with my rulers, and that everything is as consistent and precise as it possibly can be. If you think I missed anything or have any comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching.